Hello everyone, and welcome back to another GIS lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to dig deeper into this idea of equal interval. And while we're on the concept of it, we're also going to talk about defined interval because they're very closely related and we can talk about them at the same time, which allows us to get the concepts and also sort of compare them. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a little bit of room here. And to recap, we're going to be talking about this idea of equal interval and defined interval. And so, if you remember in the introductory video, we said that the idea here with equal interval was that we were making classes with the same range, right? So that each class was going to have the same range of values. The case of defined interval, right, the classes are going to have the same range, but rather than being based on the data, which we'll look at in just a second with equal interval, with defined interval, we define that interval and then the number of classes is determined after the fact. Okay, so let's talk about how this equal interval works. So equal interval, basically the way you do it is you have to figure out the number of classes, which I'm going to call n in this case. So n is going to be the number of classes. Right? And then we're going to have this other variable that I'm going to call r. Sorry to make it a little cramped there. R. So r is going to be the range of the data set. Right? So put another way to sort of express this range here, right? You're going to have the max value minus the min value over the number of features. And this is going to give you the range per class. Right? And so then what you're going to do is you're going to start at the minimum value, add the range, that's going to be your first class. Then from the next highest value from that, you're going to add the range, that's going to be your second class. Add the next highest value plus the range, that's going to be your third class, and so on. Right? So the idea here is that by taking the full range of the data, dividing it by the number of classes we want in our classified data set, we get the range for each class, and then we start at the bottom and work our way towards the top. Okay? With a defined interval, it's a little bit different. So a defined interval, you define the interval, which I'm going to call baby n, right? So this baby n, or lowercase n, right? This is going to be an interval that you set. Right? It could be, say we're talking about the percentage of a demographic in New York City, right? Your baby n might be 10%, right? So each class is going to have a range of 10%. So in this case, right, we're not defining the number of classes. Instead, we're defining this interval for each class. And so in order to convert that, right, we have to take this range, right, and we're going to divide the range not by the number of classes, but by the interval that we set, right? So this is going to be the max value minus the min value, right? And then we're going to be dividing that by this interval that we set. And this is going to give us the number of classes. Or put another way, this is going to give us n, right? Because this baby n is another way of saying range per class, right? Because instead of figuring it out based on the number of classes, we're defining the range per class to figure out the number of classes that we need. And so it's going to work exactly the same way, right? We're going to start at the minimum value. We're going to add this range per class, go up to the next value, add that range, that's the second class. Go up to the next value, add that range, that's going to be the third class, and so on. So you can see how these two things are related, right? In this case, we know the number of classes we want, and we figure out a range that makes them the same. In defined interval, we set the range we want, and then we figure out the number of classes, so that these two things are related to each other. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch over to an Excel spreadsheet where we can look at an example with 25 data points. So what we've got here are IDs. So this would be like the feature ID of a feature, right? This is the unique ID. And then we have the value. So this value is going to be the thing that we want to create our classes upon. So what we need to do, the first thing we need to do is we need to sort this by the by value. So we're going to sort smallest to largest. Right, so all I've done is I've just simply sorted it. Okay. So then what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to calculate the range. Take the min value, which honestly, we don't even need to do that because we can just look at our sorted data set here. So we know our min is 11 and our max is 100. So our range is going to be equal to 100 minus 11. Right, so that's the range that we talked about before. For the sake of consistency across all of these, I'm going to try to make it 5 classes. So our classes in all cases is going to be 5. Okay. So then if we use that, our range per class, right, that's simply going to be 89 divided by 5, right? That's the range of the data set divided by the number of classes. Okay. So we have 17.8. So what's going to happen is we're going to start at 11. So our class 1, let's go over here, right? For our example of equal interval, right? Class 1 is going to be from 11 to, and then we're going to add 17.8. So just really quickly, equals 11 plus 17.8 gives us 22.8, right? So 11 to 22.8, that's class 1, right? Class 2 is going to be 22.9 plus 17.8, right? And that's going to be 40.7. So this is going to be 22.9 to 40.7. All right, class 3 is going to be 40.8 plus again, 17.8, 58.6. So 40.8 to 58.6. And class 4 is going to be, again, right, we're just going to take this number and then we're going to add to it 17.8. So hopefully you get the idea here, right? That's going to be, so it's going to be 58.6 to 76.4, right? And then finally, class 5, because this is the last class, this needs to go up to the maximum. So it's going to go from 76.5 to 100, right? And so hopefully that makes sense, that this is how we would set this up. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.